Welcome to Lesson 4 on Flash. In this lesson, we're going to talk about some basic animation tips and the onion skinning process. Okay, you see we've got the stage here, blank document all ready to go. I'm going to grab our brush tool and we are going to start a traditional Disney style animation in Flash. What I mean by a traditional Disney style animation is in the old days they would draw a figure on a piece of paper, have another piece of paper underneath it, and then draw the exact same thing again, but slightly different, and then just go back and forth flipping the pages to see the animation. The pages that the major animators would draw on are called keyframes. And normally what they would do is they would put different characters into different locations, mostly rapid movement, scene changes, big motion. The big name animators would do those keyframes, and the other animators, maybe the junior animators, would come in and fill all the scenes in between. So you'll notice at the very top we've got our frame 1, and I'm going to go ahead and draw a little mound here at the bottom. And that's going to be our frame 1. Now what I'm going to do is hit F5 on the keyboard to insert a frame, and the way we're going to do this process is we're going to work in twos, and that's how most animators will do it these days. What I mean by working in twos is we'll have our keyframe, a blank frame, and then on the third frame we're going to insert a new blank keyframe. Now when we insert a new blank keyframe, everything vanishes. Well, we need to turn on our onion skinning. What onion skinning is it allows the frame before it to be shown so that you can see what it is that you're working on. So if we turn on onion skinning, we can see that little mound that I drew before, and we have a frame of reference so that we don't have to try and draw it by memory. So I'm going to draw it again as best I can. And in this frame, I'm going to add a little piece of a flower that's going to come up. There. And so now if I hit enter, that's our animation. I'm going to hit F5 again for a blank keyframe, and then I'm going to insert a new frame. You'll also notice at the top that we have this little slider bar that goes across the frame numbers, and it has these little circles on the side. If I were to drag this little circle over to the left, I would be able to see not only these two frames, but these two frames as well. So if I had a 60 frame animation, I could theoretically see all 30 of the different keyframes on top of one another. Now most of the time you really won't want to see more than maybe just one at a time. So you can really just kind of bring that back, and you'll notice it doesn't even have to be over the actual keyframe. As long as it's on top of the set of two, you'll be just fine. So what I'll do now is I'll come back in and draw flower. And I'm going to head back to the previous and sample that color. And really what might be a good idea when you're doing these kinds of animations is to keep some color off to the side here, so that when you get into working, you can always have it to sample. So for this case, I'm going to resample my red, go back to the next layer or the next frame, add a blank one, and draw back in the ground. My brush size changed on me. So there we go. So now if I play it, you could see the slow root coming up, which will eventually be a flower. And that's kind of how you can do some basic flipbook style animation using onion skinning in Flash. There's also some other options down here where you can actually see the outlines of your animation, but it will only show outlines on shapes, circles, stars, rectangles, so they really wouldn't be showing up for us in this endeavor. You also have an option here to edit multiple frames, meaning you can go back and make changes, wholesale changes at once. And you also have a modify markers, which we will get into in a future lesson. This has been lesson 4 on Flash. We'll see you next time.